Iyalaje is sponsoring Elizabeth to cause problems in the palace. Iyalaje is sponsoring Elizabeth to cause chaos and problems in the palace. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to DNZ TV, the place where we have up to date information of what's happening in the entertainment industry here in Nigeria and also around the Ooni of Ife's palace. We are here to give you up to date information, date updates that are very, very current of everything that is happening. And today we hope to bring some good news. Well, it depends on how you look at it. It could be good news to you or it could be the opposite side. Now, if there's a position called Iyalaje, which is actually being appointed by the Ooni of Ife. This position is a very sensitive one because it has to do with development, it has to do with empowerment, it has to do with philanthropic gestures. But right about now, the person that the Ooni of Ife appointed as the new Iyalaje is rather using his position to sponsor the newest wife of the Ooni of Ife, who is Dr. Elizabeth, to rather cause chaos in the home instead of bringing prosperity. She's rather causing chaos, and it's something that is actually making a lot of people begin to think that the Ooni is actually not in total control of everything that is happening in his house. Initially, when Elizabeth came on board, everybody began to think that she's actually going to be a little bit different from Mariam. Because when Naomi left the palace, the most vocal person of all of the Ooni's wife was actually Mariam. Mariam was so vocal that she was actually, well, her own being vocal was actually in the negative side. You know, you could be vocal for positive, you could be vocal for negative. But this time around, Mariam now became very vocal on the negative side. So when Elizabeth came on board, she brought a lot of innovations, and people were beginning to think that, wow, this seems to be a direct opposite of Mariam. But right about now, we're beginning to know that she's actually being sponsored by Iyalaje to actually cause problems in the palace. And don't also forget, one of the reasons why Naomi left the palace was because of the Iyalaje. You know, Iyalaje was now beginning to work with other Oloris to make sure they outcast her out of the palace, which some way they actually succeeded. And guess what? She left the palace and started living her life. But now, you know, there's something with somebody who carries grace. You know, when you leave, your grace has a way of following you. Just as I said, and I will always continue to say, if your absence is not felt, then your presence wasn't ever needed. Yeah. If your absence is actually not felt in a place, be it in church, be it in school, be it in family, anywhere you find yourself, once your absence is never felt, then your presence wasn't ever needed. Now, initially, they thought that they could do without Naomi. That's why they did not hesitate to let her go. But right now, guess what happened? Now, when she now left, everybody now started going haywire. Things started going south. You know, things were just going zigzag and upside down. You know, Palace born today, flood come tomorrow, you know. And different things were happening. And imagine, since she left, there was no cry of a baby in the house. So things have actually really been going very, very south. But with the latest development now, where Ooni now said she wants Naomi to come back to the palace, and in exchange for her to come, every other person needs to leave. Who does that? You know, it's actually a little bit quite complicated. You know, some persons have like kicked against it that this is wrong, this is barbaric, whereas others are like, okay, this is actually cool, it's no problem. In as much as that is where his happiness lies. You know, there's this thing that says a man's heart is where is where his happiness lies. You know, so this is where he is, and I mean, the only person that can make him happy and excited is one wife alone, who happens to be Naomi. So he does not give a damn about all the other 6 wives. Just like what happened in the Bible, where they said the shepherd left the 99 sheep grazing in the on the hill, and now went in search of one sheep alone that got missing. That is exactly what has transpired and what has happened. Now, Iyalaje's responsibility, as we all know, it's supposed to be to bring huge responsibility and roles attached to her latest status. She promised to perform optimally towards wealth creation as well as human capital development. The Ilesha-born business tycoon cum philanthropist, who has been the global promoter of the popular annual Aje festival for about half a decade, that's 5 years, gave the assurance at the ancient Ile Oduduwa Palace of the Ooni of Ife in Ile Ife before the Arole Oduduwa and Ooni of Ife. Ooni Adeyeye Enitan Ogunwusi Ojaja II, and a host of other top dignitaries, including traditional rulers across Nigeria, who took turns to pray for her traditionally. Through her close relationship with the Arole Oduduwa, which she holds in a very high esteem, she has always been close to the traditional institution, and she's glad to state that she's learned a lot to last a lifetime. In her words, let me be specific now. My announcement in itself was done traditionally, and that was the state of it all for months ago. Upon my entry on Thursday evening, I was received at Ilero Spot at Iremu Road, Ile-Ife, by the cultural women Obinrin Elero and the Ooni's traditional aides, MSCs, where the opening rites were performed before they walked to the palace to pay traditional obeisance to the Arole Odua before taken to the sacred Yeyeluwa well for blessings. Today, we open the day with a procession of Isoros and Iyalajes of different markets to the Aje temple at Oja Ife, Oja Ejigbo Mekun, where she joined them in company of MSs, 7 horses, and all her distinguished guests and well wishers. As a matter of fact, her dressing was white, which is also the most important dressing for people who happen to be around the palace. So with all of this development now, it was pertinent to note that her responsibility was actually going to be very, very high. But rather, she decided to go and merge and collaborate with Elizabeth to cause more issues and more harm in the palace. This is something that actually is not going to help the palace. Rather, it will rather tear down and bring down the palace. It is time we begin to ask these Oloris that what can you do to uplift the palace? Instead of you to bring down the palace, do things that will uplift the palace. Do things that will add value to the palace. Look at Naomi. She left the palace for how many years ago? But they are still missing her. They are still calling her. They are still trying to make her know that her place is still here. Her room, her apartment, everything is still intact. But yet, all those other ones that have always been there still find out that their absence is actually really not felt, which means it's every possible that they could leave anytime. So Iyalaje, please, I want to beg on behalf of all the online friends and in-laws, try to add value instead of tearing and bringing down the palace. We are begging you to add value and do things that will uplift and make the palace a more habitable place, because the Ooni himself is doing so much and everything to see that peace and rejoicing returns to the palace. This is how far we will be going today. We are going to be taking a break here right now. I want to give a special thank you and shout out to all our subscribers. I do not take you for granted. I do not take you for granted. We are here to give you latest and up-to-date information that will do nothing but make you happy, gladden your heart, and take you to the next level. So the best you could do for us is to subscribe to our channel, share this channel, talk to people about this channel. Let us have your comments and conversations. And I tell you something, we will do the best we can to see that we give you latest and up-to-date information of what's happening in the royal family, so that we all can be happy and we all too can be very, very glad and excited. Thank you so much, and see you some other time. Bye-bye.